one.
Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Paranormal Versus. My first trip stateside, so be gentle. I'm with my fantastic co-host Enoch E and Michael in the house tonight. So yeah, it's been a fun week.
Very fun.
Yeah. So I'm just hanging out with these guys and they're making my trip so amazing. And I'll have lots of videos and everything else like that when I get back home to show everybody. But right now we've got an amazing guest tonight. So I'm going to just hand over to the guys for 2 minutes to see what's happening in their lives. And basically then we'll bring the guest on. So how you been?
Doing well. Having experiences. I've been saying that seeing Kel experiencing everything that that's just new to her, which is pretty much everything, all the pictures. And I've been saying that it's basically like seeing her experience Christmas morning for the first time, multiple times a day, every day. It's so hilarious to see the smallest things that we're so accustomed to get her so excited. Even a fire hydrant is like a celebrity. So, no, we've been doing a whole lot of laughing, and she's put up with the kids and stuff it's just been a blast all the way around.
Put up
so
with
much
the kids.
Fun.
They're amazing.
No, they're awesome, and they love you being here. So it's just been a fun trip so far. Interesting week, very busy week, but a fun week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen you guys were at Texas Roadhouse, and I left Kel a nice little message when she says I went to Texas. I was like, what?
Yeah. Wrong one.
Yeah. Not the state, just the place, the Roadhouse.
But did you finish everything?
Nope. We brought half at home over with us. Sorry.
To be fair, we ordered like so many different things so she could try a whole bunch of stuff.
Well, fun fact is when you go to Texas Roadhouse, you do always leave with leftovers. They just give you so many good portions.
It's amazing. But another thing that they've got us doing as well, I usually have my beef or my meat cremated, like well done, and I've been eating it medium rare, which is unusual for me because I don't usually do textures very well. So it's been interesting, yeah, and I prefer it that way now. So I'll be going home with like loads of different things that I can actually eat now. So I'm happy with that. The food is amazing.
That's because you're eating real beef, probably.
It's not just the beef. It's not just the Texas steak, the Texas Roadhouse. We went to a place called Casey's, and oh my lord, I've never had food like that in my life.
Proper Southern soul food.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, biscuits and gravy.
Sweet potato. What was it with? Marshmallow.
Piece of souffle.
Oh my god. Yeah, my new guilty pleasure.
Oh, there you go. Me, I've just been living in the world of doing shows and working on my books that I'm writing and getting stuff scheduled and ready for upcoming conference I got in July. So
wow, check you
I'll be
out.
gone for a week. So a few things going on here and there, but I do have to say though, I am excited to be back on this show, and for number 7 of the year, we're kicking butt.
Yeah. Yeah. It's brilliant to obviously be back on the show it's pretty cool. I know that we guess that we're all bringing on. She's having technical issues, so just want to warn everybody out there. Again, obviously last time we had Bruce that were brought on. He obviously where he lived, he didn't have a good internet connection, so we had problems that time. So we don't know what the issue is this time, but hopefully it'll work itself out. So just bear with us anyway. Sorry, I've got to say bear with us because a certain person keeps saying, try and speak less Geordie.
Nah, you gotta represent. You're in the US, you gotta represent.
Nah, I'll try.
So, E, you gonna introduce our guest?
Sure, no problem. Backstage, we have a new guest we've never had on this show before, Miss Melissa Hornbeck. Very interesting lady. Here she is. Welcome to the show.
Hopefully the audio is working.
Uh-oh.
Hello, Melissa. Can you hear us?
To hear you guys. I'm so sorry. I don't understand.
You still having problems?
I'm so sorry. It seems to be working fine here on my end.
Yeah, it is on ours as well.
Mhm.
Weird.
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. You're coming in crystal clear.
She's still struggling to hear us and understand
Everybody's
it.
froze up again. except
Oh
for
no.
me.
Michael, I'm wondering whether it would be worth logging back out and logging in again.
We can try that. I can suggest that to her.
I don't think she can actually hear it at the moment, so.
Let me see if I can pull up.
Oh, she's gone.
This is the worst part
Meanwhile,
of doing a show like this. So, I mean, when we have technical issues like this. But it happens. Can't be helped.
well, and she's on her cell phone. She informed me her computer crashed this morning, so she's trying a new way of doing it. So I've never used a cell phone myself for it.
I have.
So we'll see if E can help her figure out how to get the phone to connect.
Oh, it's literally just open up the link you sent and click it, and it worked just fine for me. I don't understand. Whenever I use it, I don't typically use it, but the first time I ever logged in with the show, I used my phone, and it worked beautifully.
Well, until we get her to where she can hear and understand us, I guess we'll just keep sharing what we're up to and touting everything. And Jennifer Oliver says, tell her to connect to her Wi-Fi if she hasn't. That could be, because some people I don't think realize that they have Wi-Fi on their phone.
Yeah. Oh well. I guess we'll have to chat amongst ourselves until then.
Oh, Jennifer Oliver is her sister. How about that?
Ah.
Oh, huh. That's a good source then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
So, Michael, have you been doing anything spooky lately?
Not lately, but I do have in July. We are in a new location, so I'm hoping to make some time over to Mineral Wells to help Texas Scaregrounds. It's a haunted house. They got a new location, so we got to put it together. And they usually help out, and in October I get to volunteer act and scare some people or bring people into the haunted house by reading the rules, because I have theatrical background, so I get to play with that. So
Mm-hmm.
I will be taking part in a haunted house again. We took last year off because we didn't have a location.
Mhm.
So, but if you want to check it out, it's Texas Scaregrounds. And last we checked, we were still voted number one for the area, and it's a fully interactive haunted house. So,
Wow,
yeah.
that's pretty cool.
So I totally didn't know it was supposed to be on Wi-Fi.
Is it
Aha!
working now?
Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear now.
Oh, brilliant.
Thank you,
God.
Jennifer. You are awesome.
I am so sorry.
No,
It's
don't
okay.
apologies. We've all had our technicals on this show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
When it comes to technicals, I can find some ones I didn't even know existed, apparently.
Yeah, there you go.
Uh,
Melissa, tell us about yourself.
So I am a mom, a paranormal investigator. I do volunteer work at the community center, mostly helping prepare meals and stuff for the needy. And my favorite thing to do is the paranormal work. I've been doing that for 20 years. I started out just basically chasing orbs to find out if there was something connected to them. And before I knew it, I had a team built up, and we had a regular stomping ground that we went to where it's loaded with spirits that are very, very cooperative as long as you treat them right. And we ended up in the first 4 years getting so much evidence of spirits spirits with orbs. I don't know how you feel about the orbs, but my team, we've got photos of the spirits actually coming out of the orbs and manifesting into shapes that you can recognize as humans. We have one on a horse, actually. We started rooting for them. We're like, listen, we know that you're here, and we know that people poo poo you being here. So help us prove that you exist. And so we started telling what we're going to do. I said, we're going to bring equipment. We're going to try to talk to you. We're going to take some photos. And if there's anybody here that wants to prove that this isn't imaginary, show up, help us do it. And they did. They did.
Wow.
And we ended up with, we did 2 photo books of pictures that are just phenomenal. I mean, people who are dead set against orbs have looked at some of our photos and were like, I don't know what else to say, because they're astonishing. Even say like Zach Bagans, they never used to follow orb activity at all. They would poo-poo it right off the bat, cut it off. And I saw them at an activity, an event one time, and I told them, you guys are missing so much. As soon as, because that's when it starts. That's how you know the manifestation is about to happen. You can see the orb activity build up from the energy in the air. I said, and when you guys aren't paying attention to that, when you look somewhere else because you see there's orbs going on over here, you're missing it. And they realized after paying attention that I was right. And now they don't do that. They call them light anomalies, but it's the same thing. And so that's what started us. And then once people knew that I wasn't afraid of ghosts, we got drawn into doing home investigations, where we would go and figure out, is your house really haunted? Is it
Those are
something
fun.
you can deal with, or is it something you need to get rid of? Most of the time, we were able to deal with it and get them to live together without problem. A few times we had to make them go. I prefer to not do that, though.
Yeah.
Because it's their space first.
Yeah, collaboration is a good thing.
Right. It is.
Can I actually ask what got you interested in the paranormal?
It was first the orbs. I was a waitress at a local diner, and a girl that I worked with came into work one day, and she was in high school, and I was older at the time, but they were doing that. You know how high school kids always go to the spooky place and try to do things. And she was telling me about a cemetery that she went to, and they were trying to take pictures. And she showed me some of the pictures, which were like amazing orbs, bright blue ones, white ones.
Yeah.
But she said that they were only there about 15 minutes and all of their equipment just died. She said their cell phones went dead, their cameras went dead. And I was like, what? So I had to go check that out. And we went to the same place and the same thing happened. But we did get a recording that night. And that
Mhm.
fascinated me because I kept seeing this green light that would come. And every time I would try to point it out to one of the people that I was with, it would just disappear, it'd shrink away and be gone. And it happened about 4 times. And then one time I saw it coming in and I'm like, there it is. And as soon as I pointed to it, it faded away. And I was like, darn it. And on the recorder, it picked up saying, oh no, you can see. And that was the first EVP I ever got. And I was at home listening to it by myself, like 2 o'clock in the morning when I heard it. But it charged me with energy. I was like, it is real. It is real, because you really just, if you have a little doubt, you don't believe it until you've heard it or seen it yourself.
Yeah.
And I knew I was the one holding a recorder. I knew there was nobody else there that talked. And it was clear. It just said, oh no, you can see. So then I had to go back. And then I had to take those people back. And then, working at a diner, we started talking about it. A lot of regular customers. We ended up with a whole crew of people making a regular rounds to, it's Gretchen's Lock. It's an area here at Beaver Creek. And we brought that area back to life enough that we have an annual event here now called Gretchen Fest. It's done every August around the anniversary of the death of the little girl. That's the main ghost there. But the whole area is like a visible ghost town. All the houses are gone, but it used to be a very hopping area in the middle 1800s here in East Liverpool. So I just got hooked on the ghosts. I got hooked on the cooperation, and then going and helping people once they realized that I wasn't going to run from them. They're like, well, you come and see what you can do at my place. Like, okay. So then I have a team, my OPIT team. That's what we do, is mostly home investigations and clearing spirits that need to be cleared or crossed over. So it's a specially blended team of people with special talents that, we can pretty much tackle anything we come against. I don't do demons anymore.
So, Melissa, your sister has a message for you. She says, actually going further, sis, to our banger house and why they did Paranormal Survivor. That was the start.
That she's right. That's what got me actually interested. When I realized we grew up in a haunted house, it was seriously, like, physically, things were thrown at us, things would break. Let me see. Let me backtrack. The house I grew up on, Vine Street, was so haunted, and we were so afraid to live there that my dad ended up moving us out of there. We lost the house. He let it go back to the bank because he wouldn't sell it to anybody because he knew what was going on there. After we had moved out, we found out that a man had committed. I found out. Parents knew but didn't tell us till we were gone. A man had committed suicide there. And there was so much activity. Like, you could hear somebody in the bathroom. I would wait outside the bathroom door thinking there was somebody in there. You could hear the toilet flush, hear the water run, and wait, nobody come out, knock, nobody answer. You go in, there's nobody there. That was just the minor stuff. But there was some really scary things that it just progressed, you know what I mean, to where I was horrified. I couldn't stand to be there anymore. My dad had got called home from work so many times in the middle of the night because he said I was he tried to say I was hallucinating, but after amount of time he realized there were spirits there, and they were, oh, it was bad. It was bad. We had a priest come to cleanse the place, and he was there for about an hour and a half, and he went through every inch of that house. And I could tell that he was doubting us. He didn't really, you know, it didn't seem to me like he was doing enough for what I knew was there. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'm paying attention, and he's all done cleansing, and he and my mom were sitting at the kitchen table, and he got up. He said, "I'm going to have to call the missus and let her know why I'm taking so long." He reached for the phone, and this is one thing they did on the Paranormal Survivor. When he reached for the phone, it flew off of the hook, and this was a long time ago. This is the regular phone that hung on the wall with the, it flew off of the hook, and it was making this screaming noise like you. I don't know over in England, but here, when you leave a phone off of the hook for a while, it makes like this sound.
Mm.
It was doing it so loud that we had to cover our ears. But it flew off the hook and caught right in his hand and was just like screaming at him like that. He hung that phone up and he looked at my mom and he said, "I got to go." And he was out of there. And I don't think we ever did see that man again.
Wow.
Oh yeah, it was terrible. I came home from school one day. I found my mom in the corner at the bottom of the steps, just all curled up. She was just horrified. She couldn't even speak.
Mm.
And something had attacked her while we were at school. She ended up being in the hospital for 6 weeks over that. So
Whoa.
it was bad. And then after I started being able to communicate with the spirits, once I didn't run every time I heard or saw one, that's when I really wanted to start helping people. So that's how OPIT was born.
Wow.
I think I just kind of went all over the place with that story there.
No,
I was
no,
kind of
that's great.
The origin stories are always the
that was
coolest.
Jennifer's fault. I'm sorry, what did you say?
Oh, me? Oh, I was
Yeah.
saying the origin stories are always the coolest.
Oh, that one, it was wow. So, and I think Jennifer might even type on and agree, but I think later, after doing this for so long, when we moved out, we blamed it on the man that had committed suicide there. That's what my
Mhm.
dad still to this, well, he's gone now to the day he died, believed it was him. But right before that, my sisters and I bought a Ouija board at a yard sale. And there was the three of us and my mom, who was the one that ended up getting a real bad attack once she was home alone, mess with that Ouija board, not knowing what we were doing, not knowing the right way to do it.
Mhm.
And I know for sure, as soon as I'm sitting here, we didn't close it out right. So knowing that, and if anybody here is listening and you have a Ouija board, read the instructions, close it out right, because if you don't, you leave whatever you've brought to your house right there with you. They don't go back. And I believe that's what happened there.
Ouija boards are wild.
They are, and they're real. They really do work. I went to Walmart at Christmas time and found them on the shelf at Christmas time. I flipped out. I took that thing right up to the counter, customer service. I said, "Do you guys know what you're doing? Do you know what you're doing? Do you know how dangerous this is?" And I had a little bit of a talk. They took it off the shelf at our Walmart. I don't know about the other ones, but they don't sell them here no more.
I know a lot of people, when they're battling their demons, so to say, and end up committing suicide before they end up committing the act, they'll express like certain influences and stuff like that. So, have you ever thought that maybe what you were experiencing wasn't the guy that committed suicide, but the entities or influences that caused him to feel like he had to commit suicide?
Oh, you know what? I never even went there. You know what? That's really very interesting because out of all the years, that was like 40 years ago.
Yeah, it could have
So
been the influences that caused him to feel that way, to feel like he had no escape except to do that. And things like that usually attach themselves to individuals, which is why they have such a strong influence. So if you have ever lived anywhere after that place and you still have experienced any type of paranormal situation or something like that, that could have been linked from the previous attachment.
that's actually what that did happen when we moved. It followed us to the next house, and it was still on my mom the most. So and then that's when my mom and dad found religion, and that's what I asked my dad later. Well, when we did the paranormal activity, I asked him, how did he get rid of it? Because he never told us about it. But he told me that he was, because that's when I told him what I just did you. I told him that I didn't think it was the man that committed suicide. I thought it was because of us bringing in the Ouija board. I said the only thing that makes me not think that was it would have followed us to the next house. And then that's when my dad looked at me. He said it did. And I was like, it what? He said it
Wow.
did. And I said, what do you mean it did? He said, well, we never told you girls because it was that bad. He said, but he was sitting at the table talking to my mom and her eyes turned completely black. Like there were no whites in her eyes. And she looked right at him and she said, I'm not who you think I am. And oh, I got every hair standing up, every hair
Yeah.
standing up my arms right now. Just remember my dad say that, because then it fell back, you know, like back flashes of things that did go on when we lived there, and it all made sense. So yeah, it was after that house though, we didn't have any more of those bad hauntings. I see spirit all the time. Well, not all the time, but whenever they want me to. But not a haunting. It's different.
Do you think
That was
it's like a normal thing for, like, obviously ghosts to follow you from house to house? Have you heard many like people tell you that that's happened to them before?
yes.
Wow.
I
I've
think
only ever heard of like it happening to people really over here. I don't know many people that's happened to in the UK. So maybe it's an American thing.
I think it depends on the person, really. I mean, do you know a lot of spiritual type people?
Oh yeah.
Because I think, you know, they shine a different light. And I think that the spirits are drawn to that light, and say, like, if you go to a haunted place and your light's brighter or prettier or more magnetic than the rest, you are more likely to get followed home. But you can control that too.
Yeah.
Like you can shut that off before it happens. And that's usually what we do when we go to a place where there's multiple spirits. That's when I'm really concerned about it, when there's multiple spirits, because I can't keep track of them all. So we do a good heavy cleansing before we start, a good heavy cleansing before we leave, and basically pray. Basically pray that everybody stays put.
So I have an interesting question for you, Melissa. Do you think the experience that you went through with being your first one that you were able to sit with and communicate with after running was to prepare you to be able to do what you do now? Because it seems like they threw at you the worst first, and then everything else is like, okay.
Well, oh no. Oh no. We've had much worse in our trying to help other people. Our haunting was minor compared to some of the ones that we've gone to help. So I think that, yes, it did prepare me for that. It made me probably a little more braver than I should have been, because the first ones weren't nearly as bad as they can get. And, you know, when you survive one that you think's pretty bad, you think you can take them all on. But I can say as a team whole, we've been able to accomplish about 97%, but that 3% you still get nightmares about. You know, like I lost a friend during an investigation, during a cleansing. That's why I don't let my team mess with anybody that believes their house is haunted by a demon anymore, because first of all, it's more than a demon you have to take care of, it's the people too. And a lot of times they don't change and they end up with the same problem again. I found that out way too late, way too far into this. But we went to help a family here in Ohio. They were on the other side of Ohio, but they had a serious demon issue. I still don't know how it got there, but I know it would not leave. It would not leave that property. As hard as we tried 4 times. We had priests, we had shaman, we tackled that place with every faith battle we could come up with, and it still ended up beating us in the end. My team ended up doing a event to raise money to help get them into a new place, because I mean they were I'm talking levitation, scratches, disembodied voices. The animals were getting sick. It was trying to single out people, draw them in and leave them alone. Like it would cause things to happen. Like the dad would leave, the truck would break down. They had an older woman that was there. She was in her 70s and she was blind. So somebody had to always stay there with her, which was usually her daughter and her daughter's boyfriend. So the dad would work. But then things would happen, and like weird things that would draw people out of the house, like it was trying to leave that poor old lady there by herself. And that's why my team wanted to help clear it, because they'd had everything that invested in a place. They really couldn't afford to move, and I thought we could do it because we'd done it before. And we went there. We went there full force, and we did think that it worked because everything played out like it normally does when you have a good cleansing. Like you could feel the air light. The air was lighter. The house literally got brighter. The windows stopped rattling. Their windows rattled constant. There was a wind that went around that house that was just unexplainable. And it was only on that property it would howl constantly, make the windows shatter, make the doors rattle. It was just crazy. All of that stopped. We thought we'd done good. And so the clients were happy. We were happy. We're loading up our equipment, getting ready to head out. And well, this thing had, let me backtrack just a little bit, because this thing was so manipulative. It would send fake messages through Messenger, through email, and on the regular text messaging. It would send messages from me to the client that I didn't send, telling them to do things. And it would send messages amongst the clients themselves, telling them, I need help here. That's one of the things I was saying about luring them away. It would try to do that with messages. So the night before the cleanse, my team had agreed that none of us were going to answer our phone. We had our phone shut off. We weren't going to let anything stop us from going and doing what needed to be done. So with all of our phones shut off, we do the cleansing. And like I said, everything looked perfect. It seemed perfect.
Wow. We just seen, sorry.
Go ahead.
I do know an instance of where it was a case of the South Shields poltergeist. Apparently, it was texting one of the paranormal investigators from a phone that had been disconnected, the battery taken out and everything. And it was actually texting one of the investigators. So I have actually heard of that happening. And you're the first case I've ever heard of that actually, like apart from that one, ever happening. So that's really interesting.
It was, because I didn't even, when they first told me, I found that one a little bit hard to believe. But after seeing everything else, I had really no reason to doubt them. It was just, that was hard to take in. And then I started getting messages. And so it was like trying to prove itself to me even. So we do that cleansing, and we are loading up the car. And one of the people on my team, Michael, he was the first one to turn his phone on. And as I was getting in the car, he said, "Oh my God." And I'm like, "What?" And he said, "Zach's dead." And I was like, I didn't even realize who he was talking about at first. I swear for a second, and not trying to, I thought he meant Zach Bagans for some reason, I guess because we were on a paranormal thing. I said, "What?" And then he said, "Zach." So what happened was, the night before the investigation, Zach was my sister's best friend, and they were staying at my niece's house. There was a doppelganger of me and my, at the time, 6-year-old daughter that showed up at my niece's house calling for Zach. And so and this is like March. It was freezing cold. We had a bad windstorm, which I truly believe was part of that investigation and part of that wind phenomenon that went on at that house anyway. So the weather was really bad, and my niece stopped him 3 times from going up the road because he kept saying I was calling to him, me and my little girl calling to him that we needed him to come and help. He tried to get Kaylin to come, and she's like, Zach, there's nobody there. And he wasn't on drugs. He definitely wasn't on drugs. But she had to go to work, and she worked a midnight turn. And when she got back at 8 o'clock in the morning, Zach was gone. She tried to call us, but nobody was answering the phone, you know what I mean? And he was found about 2 miles away from where they were. He had wandered off, ended up with no shoes, no coat, and he had froze to death.
Oh,
And they found him on the side of the road.
that's
So
horrible.
that's when, I'm sorry,
It's okay.
sometimes I can get through that a little bit easier. But that's when I realized that when a spirit really wants to stop you, how far away from you they will reach to get your attention. Because like it wasn't me, it wasn't my teammate. We were prepared for that, you know what I mean? We were prepared for any kind of attack against us. But when you find out it takes down somebody that's had nothing to do with it, it makes you reconsider what you do. And
Yeah.
I retired after that. I just told everybody I just can't. I didn't realize how much I was risking by doing what we were doing. And so I retired after that until Jack Kenna. I don't know if y'all know who Jack Kenna is, but he's a pretty prominent paranormal investigator who works on paranormal case files on the Travel Channel. He had an investigation that was really important. It was an older woman, Marilyn, and I know you're watching, Marilyn. I still love you, from Indiana. And he got online asking for help from a team that was close enough because he couldn't get there in time. And so I contacted Marilyn because we were just 5 hours away, and she told me her story, and it was another bad one, but she wasn't doing anything to provoke, and I just felt so bad for her. So that's what pulled me back in. And we helped Marilyn, and she's still my friend today. And I'll still help somebody, but we don't do demons no more.
Yeah. So did you? Was it actually your voice that this doppelganger was using? Was it like the same voice and everything?
He told Kaylin that it was me. Like, so it would have had to have been look just like me, talk just like me. You know what I mean? Because he was mad at her. He was mad at her for not seeing. He was like, "That's Missy," and he couldn't remember my daughter's name. But I knew that's who he was talking about. Because he said, "And the little girl." It just. He was 100% sure it was me. And she said she stopped him like 3 times.
That's horrendous.
Sounds like you came across a mimic.
Is that the word of the week?
I think it is.
Doppelganger is what I called it because I don't know. Mimic, a doppelganger. I used to call them mimic. I don't like them. I don't like them. Every time I've ever heard of one, something terrible happens. So
I actually had a situation where my mom had hurt her shoulder, so I went to her store where she gets her clothes at to pick up clothes, and the cashiers all looked at me and they had this funny look. I said, "What's going on?" And they go, "You were literally just here. You walked out the door just a couple minutes ago." And I was like, "No, this is my first time here." And they were like, "Your doppelganger was here." And I was like, "Oh man, how close I got to seeing myself." That freaked me out. I was like, because they always say, if you meet yourself That could be
That you're like,
dangerous.
right, right. That's what I thought too, that you were supposed to see it yourself. I didn't think somebody else was supposed to see you and be, that they could do it that way. But that was my first encounter with one. And
Oh.
as far as I'm concerned, the worst encounter. And I didn't even see it, but I believe that's what he saw, knowing how they work and what they do, and what was going on. I think that demon expected, when he drew Zach out that night, I think he expected them to be able to get a hold of me, and it would have stopped us from doing what we were doing. I think, but I don't know. I
And
just
draw
know.
you away from the property, so you'd leave him alone.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Scary, but interesting.
And
Yeah,
I think I speak for all of us, Missy, when I say we're so sorry that you had that happen and that happened to Zach. Our hearts go out to you and everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do appreciate that. I really do.
A wild situation to have to deal with on all aspects.
That's a heavy thing to carry around. It is, but like I said, I quit after that until I found somebody else that needed help, and when I went there, I just asked Zach to come with me, and so that's how I deal with it. I know that he loved what I did. He loved what I did. He thought it was awesome, and I just bring him along with me now.
That's beautiful. And I had an experience where I was doing a training, like a teaching paranormal, and it was my first one with this team. It was a husband and wife team, and the location we were at had 7 levels, only one staircase. The elevator didn't work, and it was a thin stairwell. And we're on radios, and so it was my first time, using radios and everything. And all of a suddenly, we get this call for a medic, and we're like, "Well, the medic is on the 7th floor. Why isn't the medic responding?" And they keep calling for medic, and we are like, "The medic's on the 7th floor." We don't know why he's not responding. Finding out the medic was the one needing the medic. And he ended up dying at the location that night. And that was in February. It wasn't until in the same year, I think it was like 4 or 5 months later, a friend of mine was doing a tribute to him because he was really big in the community for the paranormal where I live. And she says, "Oh, we're doing this tribute investigation. We'd really like you to come. I know you're not in the paranormal anymore." And I said, "All right, I'll come because it's a tribute to him." And that's actually what got me back into the paranormal. So I had a similar experience, not the same magnitude, but yeah, I know what you mean. And it does make you step away.
Yep, I feel you. So now I mostly just do like legendary, famous haunting places, and pretty much just do it for communication and for fun. I joined on with another team called Three Souls Paranormal, and we do a lot of work for like the historical societies and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another cool way to go with it.
So,
And
what's your favorite place that you've investigated?
I'm sorry?
What is your favorite place that you've investigated?
Bobby Mackey's Roadhouse in Wilder, Kentucky, before it got tore down. That was a pretty epic investigation. I had my team. We had some people from Maryland that did another team, came along and investigated with us. And we had about every kind of activity that you could get there. We got with the voice recordings, we got photos, we saw things, we had, it all happened there. I loved Bobby Mackey's. I was so sad when they tore it down. Oh. So how about you? What's your favorite place?
Me?
Oh, me?
Yeah, go on, I'll let you answer this one first.
I live close to an area called Fort Fisher. Part of the Revolutionary War time period and stuff like that. So that was a very interesting place that we checked out and did some investigating out there. Under the Cannon Fire Shelter, it's like a huge like hill that was supported to protect the inside from cannon fire, and that was a very interesting result like that we got from all that stuff. As my name came through, we heard like what sounded like old school like black powder rifles and stuff like that on recording. Very neat. There was one we heard like a trumpet or a bugle or something like that, and it sounded like it was coming from the distance, but we weren't even sure at the time whether we heard that with our ears or if we heard that from the box we were using. But that's always a really cool area. Some people say they see like translucent soldiers marching in a line. So like it's a very cool area.
I love Gettysburg. I've been there, and battlefield investigations are I'm all in. Whenever I'm game every time for a battlefield investigation.
Yeah,
so
fun.
much energy there. So how about you, Cal?
I think one of my favorite places is local to me. It's in a place called Sunderland. It's Nelson. It's a land, air, and sea museum. Basically, they've got aircraft and like all sorts of machinery from like World War One, World War Two. I've been there quite a few times. One of the most best things that I caught there is an outline of a World War II fireman. We heard like smoke rustling, took photos in the dark, and then you could actually see the outline. He had the helmet on, you could see the uniform, everything. So that place,
awesome.
there's so much stuff going on there. It's like people have been killed in the machinery and like the planes and stuff like that. And there's just so much energy in that place.
Mike, how about you?
I would say the top 3 places for me would be Mineral Wells, because there's a hospital there that was really cool to check out, and then a military base that was abandoned that you could investigate the hospital on the military base and different buildings. And it was a World War II Nazi concentration camp where they, well, not a concentration camp, POW camp, I mean, where they kept the prisoners. And so that was really cool to know was there, and it helped explain why we were getting German officers in the building we were in, because it was across the street. And Jefferson, Texas is another amazing town where the whole town is all about the haunted history. So it's really cool to see when the town backs the community. And the other one was I would frequent that I'm kind of upset a little bit right now is they sold it, and I'm not quite sure how the new owner is going to make it work, but I'm hoping for the best, and that was Old Park Hotel in Ballinger. Every time you go there, stuff would happen, and it's so rare that you find locations where you could almost guarantee being there, something's going to happen, and that was one of those, and it was like a rare gem, in my opinion.
How about bucket list place? Anything on top of your bucket list? Where's first place you'd go?
I'll let you take that, Cal.
Oh God, anywhere in America. I used to host at the Ancient Ramen, so that used to be at the top of my bucket list. But being in there, yeah, like I say, now I'm over here in the States for a little while. I just want to anywhere over here. I don't care
Anywhere?
where.
What state are you in right now?
North Carolina.
Oh, that's my favorite state. Are you near the Outer Banks?
About 2.5 hours away.
Oh, see, I'm so jealous right now. You got to take her go to the Atlantic. Take her to the Outer Banks.
If we have time, we're definitely going to do some stuff like that. But that's a really cool place to check out. I mean, there's just so much history there in general.
Oh yeah, get
But yeah,
into
with the
some
paranormal
Blackbeard.
side, I've never done anything at the Outer Banks paranormally, so that would be a treat for me too.
Oh, they got an abandoned amusement park there.
Yeah,
My friend Molly
Wow.
and I snuck in the middle of the
yeah.
night. Oh yeah, listen, we got an EVP there that said, "I buried treasure."
Oh, nice.
Oh.
I know, right? I so wanted to go back with the shovel. I really, really did. Because
Oh
I'm like,
yeah,
if they're telling us, then maybe they want us to have it. It said, "I
Yeah.
yeah, I
buried
know,
treasure."
right?
It said, "I buried treasure here." I was like,
Wow.
Yeah, that was a Blackbeard frequenting spot. So yeah, he
yeah.
was all over there. They found some stuff a couple years ago that actually were identified directly to his ship. So that was a big, like, newsworthy thing around here.
Yeah, I know. I haven't made it back there since then, but yeah, the Outer Banks is my favorite hanging spot. I love that. That's where I go to escape. My bucket
Awesome.
list though is the Winchester Mystery House in California.
Oh yeah.
That's a cool one.
You
Yeah,
mentioned that to
that's
me.
top of the bucket list for me.
Yeah, that's probably in my top 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that place. One of my number one was the Ancient Ram. It's just so really cool. I've always been so jealous that she's used to be tied into that because I've always wanted to check it out. But yeah, there's a lot of places that I would love to check out.
Yep. I'm still in it for a while now.
Yeah.
I'm
I
good to
would
go
say
for a few more.
yeah, my top 3 would be probably in no order the Ancient Ram Inn, because I've just heard so much stuff about it and witnessing what Kel had happen. I'm like, yeah, I definitely want to go check that out. And the Winchester, and also, I don't know why, but I keep thinking of the Yuma prison because it's out in the desert and they say that there was no guards really because if you escaped you would die in the desert because there's no water nearby. So it's like, and it housed like the worst of the worst outlaws, and so I'm like, I wonder what the energy's like there, that it's in this desert and it's
Yeah.
like it felt like they didn't need to protect anybody because you escaped, you were dead anyway. So it's like, huh,
Yeah,
Oh,
what would that be like to investigate?
that would probably be pretty heavy.
Yeah,
That would probably
Yeah.
be, yeah, that would probably be one of the ones that drain me for days.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Brian is saying, Kel, apparently the ancient ram is close to investigators now.
It's news to me. But maybe so they were talking about digging up a few of the tunnels that's underneath. So if it is closed, it might be done due to that. But I don't think she would close it permanently. They make too much money.
I will say I was watching a show about England with haunted history, and one of the things they pointed out that brought my attention to stuff that's happening here is we see a ghost or a spirit walking and we see half of it and we think, oh my gosh, there's a ghost with no body, only half the body, and that's what we naturally assume. And they were saying in England they have talks of spirits where they see the upper torso, but when they looked at what was going on historically when they're out with their clothing and everything, they were like 6 levels below. That it was streets built upon
Mm,
streets upon streets. And so they
yeah.
said they're walking on their street level, which happens to be our waist level current. So that's why you could only see the upper torso. And so I was like, it made me start to realize, we don't really, when we're looking at things, understand the time frame of where they were to current, and all these spirits that we think are incomplete may actually be complete. It's just we can't see the other part because it's in the ground.
Yeah.
Oh my word. Well, there's a thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other side of that is when you see a ghost. I mean, you could possibly be seeing a ghost every day, but you won't realise that the ghost because they look like normal people. Then over time, they start to fade out. That's my theory anyway. So something like with a woman that might have a bright pink dress on over the years, that dress might turn to like white or grey or whatever like that over the years because they're fading out. That's the way I see it anyway.
Well, I saw the ghost at Gretchen's lock. Actually, it was at the mill, not directly at the lock. But she stuck her head out through what was a boarded up window and turned and looked at me and one of the investigators that I was with. And it was the first time that I saw a spirit in a full body form. You know, like they had usually been misty, or you could see through them, or it was only parts like you saw, like top half, or I've even seen the bottom half. But this was it was just like a person had actually stuck their head out the window and looked at us, and it scared the crap out of me. I'm going to be honest. And I'd gone there every week and spent hundreds of hours at that specific mill trying to communicate with that specific ghost. But when she showed herself to me that night and to Helen, she did not look good and she did not look happy. And it was like the ghost you see in a scary movie. She was pasty grayish color with the long dark hair, the white, you could see whatever she was wearing was white as she leaned out the window, and her hair was long and dark, but she didn't have any eyes. You could see
Oh,
where
wow.
eyes were supposed to be on each side. It was just dark spots, but it looked just like the girl in the ring almost.
Wow,
And
that's scary.
Sounds like paint.
right, it was scary because I didn't expect that. And I don't even know how long I stared at her before she turned to look at us. But as soon as she looked at me, I had to look away, and I looked over at Helen, and now I know what they mean when they say they look like they saw a ghost, because that's what Helen looked like. And we were just mind blown. So yeah, we took off out of there. And then I felt so bad because, like I said, we'd spent so many hours trying to investigate and talk to that one specific ghost. Then she finally shows herself and we ran away. So next day we go back with flowers and fruit and, the typical offering that you would do for a spirit. And I apologized, but yeah, that caught me off guard. It caught me way off guard.
Yeah, I can imagine. God, I
Yeah.
would have run a mile.
But we weren't that far from her either, you know what I mean? And it was, yeah, it just caught me off guard because
Wow.
she was staring ahead for the longest time, and I was watching her stare ahead. But when she stopped and acknowledged that we were looking at her, that's when it that's when it rang through totally different.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's pretty scary.
I never drive
It's
by
like
that
I
place.
look-
And I don't look at that window though.
It's like I look forward to stuff like that, and then I don't at the same time.
Right? Because I really didn't expect it to scare me. I've seen ghosts, but I never really seen them
As
see
long
me
as
like.
it happens on some kind of device, let's record it somehow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, don't you know? There's nothing ever running when that really happens. No.
Michael, you got any more questions there?
Oh, I have a lot of questions, but I don't think we can get them all in by the show.
Oh yeah, it's almost that time.
Yep.
Well, we have that.
Let's have one for the road. Go on. I'll let you get obviously get another question in, Michael.
So a question I feel like with the opportunity we have, we'd be miffed if we didn't ask is your experience being on Paranormal Survivor. Did the episode do it justice, or did you feel like a lot of it was hyped or misrepresented?
I feel like they concentrated too much on my specific part of the story and didn't include enough of what happened to the rest of the family. They made it seem like it was just happening to me, but everybody was experiencing it. Other than that, I think they did really good as far as the reenactment and how it felt and how it looked. They did really good being able to recreate what I was telling them.
Wow.
Thank
So
you
cool.
for that, because I get a lot of mixed reviews from people who are on those TV type shows.
Yeah, right. That was the first one I did too, so I didn't really know what to expect. I mean, they were here all day filming, so of course a lot of it did have to get cut out, but I think they got the main point of what was going on. You know what I mean? They just left out some really cool things that happened to some of the other members of the family, though. So
Hmm.
I kind of felt like they got ripped off a little.
Well, how interesting to have your story told like that, though.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, and my dad came from Kentucky, so they interviewed him as well, and that's priceless for me because my dad's gone now, and knowing that I can just turn that on and sit and watch him sit and talk is
Yeah.
Yeah.
priceless. I'm forever
You'll-
grateful just for that.
You'll always have that memory as well. That's cool.
And having him back me up, you know, because so many people, when I tell them what happened there's a lot of people that just don't believe me.
Hmm.
And so, but my dad was always solid. My dad was always solid. There's nobody ever doubted a word he said. And to have him be the one that was on there backing me up really meant a lot.
Yeah, that's good. Right. Unfortunately, we've got to the hour now. Melissa, would you like to tell obviously whoever's watching where they could find you if they need to get in touch with you or if they want to speak to you? What's the best contact details?
If you have any paranormal activity that you need us to help with, the best way to get through is on Facebook. We have a group page. It's called OPIT, OPIT. It stands for Ohio Paranormal Investigation Team. If you just go on there and send a message, one of the admins will get a hold of me immediately. Or you can message me through Messenger, Melissa Rhodes Hornbeck, and I'll answer through that. Sometimes I'm a day or two late on the messenger messages because I get a lot of those, but I will respond to it. And yeah, just through Facebook, basically. I don't have a web page
Brilliant.
because, you know,
Yeah.
I wasn't really trying to be too commercial with it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It was just mostly,
Understandable.
it all just started kind of by ear, you know, word of mouth and stuff like that. And then
Yeah.
20 years later, here I am doing podcasts,
Yeah.
Best way.
right? Paying your dues, that's what it's
Yeah.
called.
Well, thank you very, very much for coming on the show and telling me your story. It's been absolutely amazing. And we really do appreciate it.
Very much.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yep, I enjoyed your show and I'll watch more of them for sure.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we're always glad to have new viewers. Michael always says fans.
Yeah, I hope everybody was able to find a new link in time. If not, I'll get this because it'll show again, right? So I'll just share where they can go on it.
As soon as we're done, it's automatically on replay and it'll be available on any platform that they pretty much view. We're on Spotify. We're on pretty much as many places as will allow us to be on.
Well, awesome. I'll reshare it to my groups again because I didn't get to reshare the new link to most of my groups because I was short on time, but I'll make sure to get it out there.
Thank you very much.
Awesome.
That was my bad.
Yep, this was awesome. I appreciate it, you guys. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay.
Michael, do you want to see what out tonight then?
All right. So thank you to everyone that's watching. Thank you to the chat room for your questions and comments. And thank you again to our guest for trusting us to come on. We do appreciate it. And I am thankful for Kel and E for managing to make it work, to being with Kel traveling. So we actually got to do an episode with one of us on a road trip.
Woohoo!
So,
Woo-woo!
so with that, we are going to say blessings to everyone and make it a wonderful day. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.